Hey, what's up guys? My name is Nicholas Corcel and you're watching The Literary Nomad. I'm finishing off the year here in Istanbul, Turkey, and wanted to make a quick video talking about the 5 best books I've read in 2023. Starting off my list is a book you've probably never heard of, and coincidentally, my favorite book of all time. The Drunkard by Liu Yichang is a Hong Kong stream of conscious novel that has only recently been translated into English. When you look it up on Amazon, you see that it's only got like 2 or 3 reviews and is very far from being widely read in the United States, or all of the Western world for that matter. Regardless, Yichang's work could best be described as a combination of Kerouac and Virginia Woolf in regards to the stream of conscious narrative structure, but it also has some of the masculinity and vulnerability that you see in Hemingway and Bukowski. Either way, it's a fantastic read and I couldn't recommend it anymore. In the description box below, I'll link a short story by him that you could read absolutely free of charge before you buy the book, because I think it's like $39 to buy it because you have to ship it from Hong Kong and it's just kind of a nightmare to get. Next up on my list is Tristessa by Jack Kerouac. And as a French Canadian myself, it's kind of obligatory that I always have a Kerouac book in any top 5 lists that I make. And every year I try to read something new by the author. This year my book of choice was Tristessa because I was heading down to Mexico City for the first time and I kind of like to pair books with places like that. Needless to say, I wasn't disappointed. The novel showcases love and addiction in a way that is very, very rare in modern fiction, and he doesn't fetishize Tristessa's drug addiction, but he showcases that a person is much deeper than their addiction, and he loves her not in spite or because of her addiction. He just loves her and she happens to be addicted. And I think that that's really the core ethos of that novel, is that addiction, while integral to somebody's personality, isn't who they are at their core essence. It's just something that they do and something that inevitably will consume them. If you're a fan of Kerouac or you like gritty novels about Latin America, it's a great read. Third on my list is probably the most popular book that I'm going to talk about today, and it's Norwegian Wood by Haruki Murakami. Now, despite a lot of his criticisms, I'm a massive fan of Murakami, and I think that he's one of the modern masters of fiction. Norwegian Wood, in my opinion, is the least Murakami novel that he's ever written. It lacks a lot of themes that Murakami loves to grapple with in his signature narrative style. For example, there's no cats whatsoever, but it tells a tale of Japanese loneliness in a beautiful and elegant way. And despite being his most traditional novel, so to speak, I highly recommend it. Now, full disclaimer, this is probably the 3rd or 4th time I've read this book. I actually lent the copy to my girlfriend to read, and I ended up rereading it myself and falling in love with the story all over again. 4th on my list takes us way back in time to ancient Russia, with Fyodor Dostoevsky's The Gambler. This book, or more of a novella so to speak, deals with similar themes to Kerouac's Tristessa, being addiction, but does it in an entirely different way. We see every aspect of gambling addiction being characterized throughout the novel. Each character kind of represents a different aspect or a different manifestation of gambling addiction. And I think that this book was incredibly important, for me at least, to understand more about addiction, especially as somebody who has had family members that have suffered from it, and my father passing away from addiction. And so I think you'll see a through line of a lot of books that deal with addiction that are books that I recommend or books that I read because it's a pertinent issue to me. I think that fiction in its greatest form can really serve that purpose beautifully. It can help us deal with and internally resolve the problems that are affecting us internally and help us make sense of the world that is oftentimes confusing and seemingly cruel around us. Transitioning to a lighter note, we're going to finish off my top 5 list with another Japanese book, Life for Sale by Yukio Mishima. Now, when I went into this book, I had pretty low expectations, honestly. People call it one of Mishima's worst works, and despite its obvious flaws, which there are several, I found the book just straight up entertaining, and I thought that it really exemplified Japanese culture of that time period beautifully. And honestly, it was just a fun, lighthearted read written by one of the greatest writers to ever live. And I think that if you're expecting anything more than that from a book, I think you need to reevaluate what you're reading for. Every book doesn't have to change your life. Sometimes they can just be fun and make you think for a few days. And Life for Sale by Mishima does exactly that. And for that reason, I would say it fulfills its purpose. Is it the greatest thing he's ever written? No. But is it worth it? Absolutely. And then one more honorable mention that I thought about including on this list, really just due to the stature of the author and his significance in contemporary literature, was My Struggle Book 1 by Karl Ove Knausgaard. And while I definitely see the value and the merits to Knausgaard's work, I just didn't really enjoy this first book of My Struggle. It was definitely worthwhile and I'm glad that I read it, and eventually I'm going to read the rest of My Struggle. But it was a little too boring for me, a little too slow paced, and I know that was the nature and the intention of his project that he did with these 6 books. But for me, it just wasn't a style that I was really vibing with this year. And it's just something that I'm really not looking forward to continuing in 2024. But if you like that kind of Proustian style, definitely check it out. Just not for me, at least not for me right now. And these things change, right? When I first read Dostoevsky, I found it incredibly boring. 3 years later, changed my life. And so these things happen with reading, and I think it's important to acknowledge them and to kind of get rid of a lot of the stigma that comes with not properly enjoying the great writers of our time or of old. All right, and that concludes my top 5 books of 2023. If you liked this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know what your top 5 were as well. I'll see you in the next one.